Have you ever had a routine blood test come back and suddenly heard a doctor say, "Your kidney numbers are a little high"? Most people assume it's nothing urgent, just one of those small changes that come with age. But here's the uncomfortable truth many people never hear in time. By the moment those numbers begin to rise clearly on a lab report, a significant portion of kidney function may already be gone. And the most frightening part is that kidney damage rarely announces itself with dramatic pain or obvious warning. It often develops quietly year after year while life goes on as usual. My name is Dr. Mark Ellis, and after years of working with patients facing kidney disease, I've seen how often this condition hides in plain sight. People come into the clinic thinking they're simply tired from a busy week, or that swelling in the ankles is just part of getting older. Then a test result tells a different story. The kidney's two small organs, no larger than a fist, have been working under silent strain for years. By the time symptoms finally become noticeable, the damage can already be serious enough to change the course of someone's health. But here is the important part I want you to hear before worry takes over. This story does not have to end that way. The body gives signals earlier than most people realize, and the everyday habits we follow with what we eat, how we hydrate, the medications we take without thinking, can either quietly harm the kidneys or protect them for decades. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through something that could genuinely change the way you think about kidney health. We'll uncover why kidney disease has been rising so quickly. In recent years, the subtle warning signs that many people overlook, and the simple choices, some of them surprisingly easy, that can help your kidneys keep doing their remarkable work for years to come. Because once you understand how quietly this organ operates, you begin to see why protecting it may be one of the most important health decisions you make. Now, before we talk about complicated diets or expensive supplements, let me start with something surprisingly simple, a small fruit that many people walk past in the grocery store without a second thought. Blueberries. At first glance, they seem ordinary, almost insignificant. But inside those tiny dark skins is a concentration of compounds that scientists have spent years studying, particularly a group of antioxidants called anthocyanins. These are the natural pigments that give blueberries their deep blue color, and they play a powerful role in protecting the delicate blood vessels that feed the kidneys. To understand why this matters, you have to picture how the kidneys actually work. Each kidney contains around 1 million microscopic filters called nephrons. These filters depend entirely on tiny networks of blood vessels, capillaries so fine that they are thinner than a strand of hair. When inflammation or oxidative stress damages those vessels, the filtration system begins to weaken. And over time, that's how kidney function slowly declines. I remember a patient of mine named Daniel, a retired engineer in his late 60s. Daniel had always considered himself relatively healthy, but routine tests showed that his kidney filtration rate had begun to drop slightly. Nothing dramatic yet, but enough to raise concern. When we talked about his lifestyle, he admitted something interesting. He rarely ate fruit at all because he assumed most of it was just sugar. Instead of completely overhauling his diet overnight, we made a few targeted changes. One of the easiest was adding a small serving of blueberries several times a week. Now, blueberries alone are not a miracle cure, and I always make that clear. But research has shown something remarkable. Diets rich in anthocyanins are associated with lower levels of oxidative stress and improved vascular function. In simple terms, the blood vessels remain more flexible, circulation improves, and the microscopic filters inside the kidneys receive more stable blood flow. Some studies have even observed measurable improvements in markers related to inflammation and endothelial health, the lining of the blood vessels themselves. What makes blueberries especially interesting for kidney health is that they deliver these protective compounds without overwhelming the body with excessive potassium or sugar, particularly when eaten in moderate portions. That balance matters, because protecting the kidneys isn't just about removing toxins, it's about supporting the entire network of circulation that allows those organs to function day after day. And here's something I often ask my patients, and I'll ask you the same question. When you think about improving your health, do you immediately imagine complicated programs and strict rules? Most people do. But sometimes the most meaningful changes begin with very small, consistent habits, like replacing a processed snack with a handful of nutrient-dense foods that quietly support the body's natural defenses. But here's the part many people don't realize. While blueberries help protect the blood vessels feeding the kidneys, There is another everyday fruit that works in a completely different way, one that supports the body's ability to reduce the toxic workload placed on those filters in the first place. And surprisingly, it's something many people already have sitting in their kitchen. But knowing this alone isn't enough, because the next fruit we're about to discuss may be even more important for reducing the hidden strain on your kidneys. A moment ago, we talked about blueberries and how they help protect the tiny blood vessels that feed the kidneys. But protecting blood flow is only one side of the story. The other side, one that many people overlook, is the amount of waste the kidneys are forced to filter every single day. And this is where a much more familiar fruit quietly becomes one of the most helpful allies for kidney health: the apple. Most people think of apples as just a basic snack, something simple, something ordinary. But nutritionally, apples contain two compounds that are extremely interesting. When we talk about long-term kidney support, pectin, a soluble fiber, and quercetin, a natural antioxidant found mostly in the apple's skin. These compounds don't act directly on the kidneys the way medications might. Instead, they work one step earlier in the chain inside the digestive system, reducing the amount of metabolic waste that eventually reaches the bloodstream. Think of it this way. Your kidneys function like an advanced filtration system. The more waste circulating in the blood, the harder those filters have to work. Pectin acts almost like a biological sponge in the gut. It binds to certain toxins, metabolic byproducts, and excess cholesterol, helping escort them out of the body through digestion before they ever become part of the bloodstream that the kidneys must process. I remember a woman named Patricia who once told me something very honest during a consultation. She said, "Doctor, I thought protecting my kidneys meant taking more supplements." Like many people, she had started buying several different products she saw online, hoping they would clean her kidneys. But when we reviewed her routine, it turned out that the most powerful change wasn't adding something complicated, it was simplifying her diet. She began replacing sugary snacks in the afternoon with a fresh apple. That small change increased her daily fiber intake significantly and helped stabilize her blood sugar levels as well. And that's not just anecdotal. Research has consistently shown that diets higher in soluble fiber are associated with lower levels of circulating toxins and improved metabolic balance, both of which indirectly reduce the workload placed on the kidneys. In fact, some population studies have found that people who regularly consume fiber-rich fruits tend to show better markers of kidney and cardiovascular health over time. What makes apples particularly valuable is their accessibility. You don't need a specialty store or expensive ingredients. This is one of the most widely available fruits in the world, and yet many people underestimate how powerful consistent everyday nutrition can be. When eaten whole, especially with the skin, when appropriate, apples deliver a combination of fiber, antioxidants, and natural hydration that gently supports the body's internal detox pathways. But let me ask you something directly. When was the last time you paid attention to how often you actually eat whole fruit instead of processed snacks? Many people are surprised when they start noticing the difference. If this is something you've struggled with, I'd genuinely like to hear about it. Feel free to share your experience in the comments, because these conversations often help other people realize they're not alone. Now, here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Blueberries help protect the blood vessels feeding the kidneys. Apples help reduce the toxic workload those kidneys must filter. But there is a third type of fruit that supports something even deeper: your entire circulatory system, which ultimately determines how well oxygen and nutrients reach those delicate filtration units. But knowing this alone still isn't enough, because the final fruit we're about to discuss may influence kidney health in a way that most people rarely consider. A moment ago, we talked about two very different ways fruit can support kidney health. Blueberries help protect the fragile blood vessels feeding the kidneys, and apples help reduce the toxic workload those filters must process. But there is a third piece of the puzzle that is just as important, and surprisingly, it has less to do with the kidneys themselves and more to do with the circulatory system that keeps them alive. This is where citrus fruits, especially mandarins and similar oranges, enter the conversation. Many people think of citrus simply as a source of vitamin C for immunity. But what makes mandarins particularly interesting for kidney health is the combination of vitamin C, flavonoids, and natural plant compounds that support vascular function. The kidneys rely on a constant and stable blood supply to perform their filtration work. If circulation weakens even slightly, those millions of tiny filters begin receiving less oxygen and fewer nutrients, which gradually affects how efficiently they operate. I remember a patient named Robert, a former high school teacher in his early 70s. Robert had been dealing with mild hypertension for years, and during one of his routine visits, he asked a question. I hear very often, doctor, what actually helps blood flow to the kidneys? It's a great question because most people focus only on the kidneys themselves, not the circulation that sustains them. As we talked about his daily habits, one small thing stood out. He rarely ate fresh citrus fruit anymore, mostly because he had fallen into the routine of packaged snacks. Instead of dramatic changes, we focused on small adjustments that were realistic. One of them was reintroducing a moderate portion of citrus fruit into his weekly routine. Not juice loaded with added sugar, but whole fruit eaten slowly, allowing the natural fiber and nutrients to work together. Within months, his overall metabolic markers, including blood pressure stability, began trending in a better direction. Now, to be clear, citrus fruit alone does not replace medication or medical treatment, but it can become part of a broader pattern that supports healthier circulation. Science helps explain why. Citrus fruits are rich in flavonoids such as hesperidin and naringin compounds that research has linked to improved endothelial function, the health of the thin inner lining of blood vessels. When that lining functions properly, vessels remain more flexible, circulation becomes more efficient, and organs that depend on steady blood flow, like the kidneys, benefit from that stability. Some studies have even shown associations between higher citrus flavonoid intake and lower levels of vascular inflammation, which is a key factor in long-term cardiovascular and kidney health. There is also another advantage that often goes unnoticed. Citrus fruits tend to be naturally hydrating while still providing important micronutrients. That combination supports the body's fluid balance, which is essential for maintaining efficient kidney filtration. When hydration, circulation, and metabolic balance all improve together, the kidneys are placed under far less stress over time. But here is something I always emphasize to my patients: moderation and awareness matter. Even healthy foods need to fit within a balanced diet, especially for people who may already have advanced kidney disease and must monitor certain minerals carefully. The goal is not to chase a miracle food, but to build daily habits that consistently support the body's internal systems. And that brings us to a question I'd like you to think about for a moment. When you look at your own daily routine, are the foods you eat mostly helping your body maintain balance, or quietly making your organs work harder than they should? Many people never pause to consider that until a health scare forces them to. Because the truth is, understanding these three foods is only the beginning. Blueberries help defend the vessels. Apples help reduce the toxic burden. Citrus helps support circulation. But there is another factor, something far more common in everyday life, that can quietly undermine all of these benefits and accelerate kidney decline without people realizing it. And knowing these healthy foods alone still isn't enough, because there is one hidden habit that may influence whether your kidneys remain stable for years or slowly move toward serious damage. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with one simple but powerful reminder. Protecting your kidneys is not about finding a miracle food or a quick fix. It's about the small decisions you make every day. Choosing foods that support your circulation, reduce inflammation, and ease the workload on your body can quietly make a difference over time. Sometimes that change begins with something as simple as adding a handful of blueberries, enjoying a fresh apple, instead of a processed snack, or including citrus fruit that helps support healthy blood vessels. These may seem like small steps, but when practiced consistently, small steps are exactly what protect your health in the long run. More importantly, I want you to remember that kidney health is deeply connected to how we care for our bodies overall. Staying hydrated, eating balanced meals, paying attention to blood pressure and blood sugar, and listening to the signals your body sends are all part of protecting those silent organs that work for you every second of the day. Your kidneys rarely ask for attention, but they deserve it. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to save it so you can revisit these ideas later or share it with someone who might benefit from hearing this information. And if you're interested in learning more practical science-based ways to protect your kidneys and improve your long-term health, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I regularly share new medical insights and simple strategies designed to help you understand your body and care for it more confidently. Most importantly, please remember this: your health is not determined by a single test result or one moment in time. The body has an incredible ability to adapt when we begin making better choices, even small ones. Every positive step you take today, no matter how modest, can help protect your kidneys and support a healthier future. Thank you for spending these minutes with me. Take care of yourself, take care of your kidneys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.